I was incorrect earlier when I said that the Incubate Bang program is open later. It's open now, and the URL, if you want to apply, is incubatebang.com. So just wanted to go ahead and clear that up for you. If you're anything like me, you probably read tons of blogs and books about entrepreneurship and startups and all of those things that are out there. Some of the stuff that's out there is really, really good, and some of it is just, it's not great. So there's a lot of myths that we continue to see about entrepreneurship, about startups that Blaine Anderson is going to come and talk to us about and try to dispel some of those. Blaine is the co-founder of PointClear Solutions. They're a fast-growing services company focused on transforming healthcare delivery through user experience and technology innovation. Please welcome Blaine Anderson.
Alright, so I've got this allergy thing going on, so the chances are I'll start hacking. I'm going to put this right here. There we go. And I also spilled water on my chest as well as the clicker here. So we'll see if we can make this work. So, once again, I'm a co-founder and now CEO of PointClear Solutions, and that's what we do. We make nurses happy, against any sort of, both clinicians and patients and all that sort of thing. We have what we basically do is build software products for healthcare with this extremely heavy dose of user experience in there, and that's really kind of our special sauce. We have about 15 or so user experience practitioners inside the company, most with a master's level, a lot of academic rigor there from like places like Georgia Tech, Carnegie Mellon, and Stanford, and a lot of really good software developers, as well as a strategy practice that's run by an MD. His name is Dr. Rodney Hamilton. He was Vanderbilt for a while, McKesson, and then Vanguard Health. And so what we do is idea to implementation software products in healthcare, from sort of, you think of something to the time you can get it delivered, with all the stuff that goes in between. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I can't believe I can see this without my glasses. I have them right here. But so I came from NASA. I was an Auburn engineer. I think I heard that earlier from somebody. And was at NASA for about 15 or 16 years. Then I left twice. I guess my co-founders and friends don't know that, but I left in the late 90s to do a startup, and I had no idea what I was doing. I lasted 2 years, and they actually asked me to come back to NASA, so I did. The reason I left was still there, which was I really wanted to do something else. So I bailed out again during the .com days, and joined a startup with the person who's now someone I brought up to be my CEO, David Carabinas, a very young guy. But we crashed and burned with the .com crash. So after that, I joined a company here that you guys probably heard of called Conference Software. I was like the 12th guy there and started up there Birmingham, and I'm sorry, not Birmingham, they're already here, Huntsville and Nashville offices, and stayed there for about 5 or 6 years. Left to found PointClear with a fellow that a lot of you guys know named Donnie Gooch. Another co-founder of mine, Neil Evans, and Lee Faribaugh, and there were 4 of us at that point. Right now we're about 6 years old. We have offices in Birmingham at Innovation Depot, oddly enough, and Atlanta, Nashville, and Huntsville. About 45 folks in the company, and I'm also co-founder of a company in Nashville called ClearBox Rights. So we're in the IP management business for songwriter royalties and administration. Won't talk any about that, but so the talk kind of idea here was around myth versus realities, and it's funny. A lot of the things are already covered. Actually, our last speaker just talked about, and he actually must have gotten hold of my list because we went down the same thing. Be your own boss. You get all this flexibility. Well, obviously that doesn't work. There's one here. It's like everybody says it's an uphill battle, and it's really not. It's this roller coaster of these incredible highs and lows, and I can talk about some of those. Really, my talk has kind of shifted now since a lot of folks. Larry Little covered the sales piece of it all and some other things. So I thought I'd just talk about disasters and things that we've done wrong, and you guys can kind of learn from that. But another myth is, you need this formal business plan. You want to spend all this time working on that. But really what you need is a clear business model. So that's one of the myths. And another big one here, I know hear people talk about, and actually I was supposed to, somebody said a lot of folks here wanted to know how a lot of us got funded, and we didn't get funded. We're a services company, so we scaled up from 4 people up to 40 without any investment. That may happen at some point, but we're not chasing it right now. But a lot of folks think that success is getting funded, which it's not. Obviously, there's a lot of other things. The other thing that's the biggest one, actually I'm supposed to click my way through this here. I actually don't have a big slide presentation, so whoops. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay, we already talked about that. These are some of our clients too. I mean, you may recognize some of these are folks from around Birmingham and all. We do work for one of our bigger clients is Walgreens. We build all their patient-facing stuff around their clinics and their employer clinics. The CDC, MedSeek, we've done some work with those guys here. You recognize a lot of these guys. The biggest, I think, myth that I wanted to talk about here is you guys have always heard about this, and you've got this great idea. So the worst myth out there is it's all about the idea. And I can tell you 10 ideas. If you want to find me before I get out of here, I've got 10 I'll give you now that you can make $1 zillion off of. You guys all have a bunch of them too. It's really not anything about the idea. So it's not about the idea, what is it about? Somebody quickly.
Execution.
There you go. You've already heard the talk. And I think that may be my next, we talked about that. So that's my last slide, so we're not going to go through any more slides. So it's really all about execution, and I think that's, I can talk about a lot of myths, but that's the biggest one. And I think, I don't really want to lecture on it, there's not like a big cookbook here. I think, when I left the last company that I was with, I made a long list of stuff that I said, if I do this again, this is, I think, lessons learned. And it's not that they did everything wrong or anything, it's just that this is some things I learned in this company that I'm not going to do again. I still have that, and I send it out to people. I've got it stuck on my wall. The stupid thing is, I've still done 2 or 3 of them all over again. You tend to fall into the same traps because it's really not that easy. The biggest thing, once again, the guys from Mongo talked about this, is picking the right people. So I won't repeat all the stuff that they said, but when we talk about, there's really like 3 groups here: the co-founders, your management team, and your employees. And we got lucky on the co-founders. Donnie and I decided to do something together. The very first client that we got was a company called CatMed, which you may have seen up there. CatMed, I think they may have come out of one of the EMR companies up here, but they had a personal health record. It was like a $2 million project. So as a consulting company, a lot of you guys, if you're a services company, you'll start out, you'll be taking these $20,000 gigs and try to start, building up bigger. We just launched right into a $2 million product before us. And went for about 2 years. We brought Lee Faribault on, who's our Director of User Experience. She was a Georgia Tech graduate in computer interaction, and now is going to be teaching at UAB. She just finished a master's in healthcare informatics at UAB, so she's going to be doing some teaching there too. But we brought her on, and it really just kind of changed our life, which was really starting to focus on user experience. So we went on to build that particular product, and it went on to win 3 awards at 3 different healthcare conferences. It was Personal Health Record of the Year for what it's worth. And this was back before there was a lot of, we did it in Ajax stuff back in those days, and there wasn't all these toolkits that they have now. So the co-founders we got lucky on. There wasn't any, and Neil Evans, who's our Chief Technology Officer, he's from here, PhD in physics, great guy. And so that part we got lucky on. On the management team, then we started out with 4 of us. Later on, we started to try to find a salesperson, and Larry talked about this. It was a horrible experience. I mean, 3 or 4 folks that came through, all still friends of mine, but just didn't quite fit with what we're trying to do. And we only recently, after, I guess, maybe 2 years ago, found sort of what we consider the perfect guy for that. He's doing a great job. His name is David Kingsbury, one of my good friends now. And then the third group is employees, and those guys did a really good job of talking about that. I don't know if I get too much into that other than, you got to hire the right people, and the right people aren't looking for a job, ever. And so we had this search and search and steal mission, where we've got the short list that they talked about, and we go in and we try to pull people out of other companies that are, maybe in a big company like HCA or one of the big hospital providers, some of these shining stars inside of those outfits, and pull them out. And then they go through this really, you guys, all of you developers know who Joel Spolsky is, right? So the guy that I think is smart and gets things done is his sort of mantra. And so we kind of use that, put all these guys through all these interviews with our developers. Since these developers have to work with these people, then they certainly are not going to let anybody dumb gets through. And so, you've heard the whole thing, A players hire A players and B players hire C players. So if you've got all A players, they'll only hire people like themselves. And they also mentioned the slow to hire and quick to fire. So I'll get into that. They stole the thunder on that. So I've got a few others here, but I think based on some of the time here, one of the things I'd like to talk about a little bit is well, first off, let me go back. So I was going to talk about some things we didn't do right. So we got this big project. There's no reason that we shouldn't be a huge success at this point, because we've got this $2 million project. We've brought on 4 or 5 other developers. We're kicking butt on this thing. But we still know at the end of this 2 years, this project's going to be over with. So you would think during that time we would be cultivating other relationships, and well, we did do that, but start looking for who our next client's going to be. We didn't do any of that. We got months into toward the end of this thing, wrapping up, and all of a sudden we said, okay, look, we got employees now, we need to do something. Hadn't done anything. And at the end of this, we said, well, we know all these people from McKesson and from all these other places we worked. It's got to be easy. We'll just call them up and put us to work. Didn't work out that way. We held our own, found enough stuff to do, and then 2008 came along, and the whole economy went to crap, and we lost some folks then, and just sort of, but everybody stuck together. We had the right group, and since then it's been a steady increase. We doubled last year. We'll probably double again this year. So the big mistake there was we didn't pay any attention to business development. Now we are. That's all we did. I had an all-day meeting yesterday on this. So that's one of the things that we did wrong. The other thing that I'm not saying that some of the other companies I work with didn't do right, but we decided to do it differently, and that was focus. And I think the last speaker talked about that too. Be known and be an expert in something. And ours is user experience, healthcare, software. That's it. I mean, we've got some of the best teams in the world deployed in different areas building innovative products for folks. In other words, we don't put people inside of a Blue Cross Blue Shield to just write code. I mean, the only thing that we're really good at is if somebody's got a new product that they want to build. It could be a big company like Walgreens that wants to do a mobile patient portal, or it could be a well-funded startup that we're working with in Nashville now that's basically doing hospital level care at home. But these guys are all going to build something that's potentially never been built before, certainly in the case of the second client. It's an electronic medical record for basically managing teams of people in the home and all that sort of thing. And so on that team we have our Chief Medical Information Officer, 2 user experience people, a whole bunch of really smart developers, year-long kind of deal. And every time you do one of those, I mean, we've done patient portals, a lot of those. We've done a lot of mobile apps in healthcare. We've done tons of clinician-facing stuff. One was for, I'm going to forget the name of the company now. I think one of our speakers is actually from the company here in town. We got involved by Cardinal Health. Did some of that stuff around for those guys. So a lot of clinician-facing things. And so now, when we go in and we talk to potential clients, and we're maybe competing against other more general purpose companies, we're going to say, okay, we've done 12 of those. And have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? Do you know clinicians want to do it this way? Do you know the patients? 65-year-old diabetes patients want to do this, that sort of thing. So the focus has really helped us, I think, there, because at one point early on, we would take anything. We did some work for Regions Bank, other things. And then where this all really came to focus for us was when we were getting ready to build our first website. It was like, well, do we just put healthcare on there? But if we do, then Regions won't call us anymore. And that was an inflection point for us to actually make that commitment and say, no, we're all healthcare, and we're going to walk away from some of these other opportunities. And so we did, and it worked out really well. But you have to make sure also everybody in the company buys into kind of your vision also. So we have a lot of really smart people, and they will say, yeah, but we could go off and do this, or we could do that. And another thing maybe I think I'm going to talk about here a little bit is the grass is greener syndrome. Okay, that will also screw with your focus in the sense that every, I live in Huntsville, Alabama actually, so every government contractor company there wants to get into commercial side, right? So they're making all this money doing the government stuff. Now, things are changing a little bit in that area now, but they said, we got to have a commercial division, so we want to go after healthcare, we want to go after this. Now, some of the people can pull that off, like SAIC and some of the big companies, but a lot of these smaller companies are always trying to chase that grass that's greener sort of thing. Where you see that a lot also is you've got a services company like PointClear that is so good at building products, and so we need to be a product company. You guys may remember that way that worked with Comframe. They came up with an imaging, PACS imaging software that they said, okay, we can make this into a product, but they were smart enough to spin it off into Magion, which went on to be a big success. And so, that hits us all the time. Hey, we could build this app and we could just sell it. But, the way you set up your company, the way you set up your sales force, the way you set up all that stuff is just different. And so you have to always that's a kind of a push-pull you have to deal with there. Another thing on focus is focus on your customers. By that I don't mean focus on customer service, which we do, but focus on picking the right customers. I think Larry mentioned something about, what did you call it? What do you call it? Is that bad customer?
Terror?
Yeah, terrorist customer. I never heard that one before. But we've had to fire customers before too, and for a little bit different reason. we're very passionate about the user experience and how user experience adds value to these healthcare applications. And a lot of times we'll get into a customer that we say, well, we have to do some user research here, we have to do some ethnographic studies, we have to do usability testing, we have to do these things. No, we don't have time to do that. Just build it. Now, some of the times people know enough about their users that they can shrink that down. But we feel very, very strongly in some of these cases that the product won't be a success without it. We just have to walk away. And so now, actually, in the meeting I was in yesterday, we're kind of always refining our lens, and our lens is how we look at customers and figure out which ones that we want to work with. And we kind of bump that up. Do they get UX? And I think Taylor and I were talking about this earlier too. That do they get UX? And if they don't, they're off the list, and we move on. And so we've made that mistake so many times now that we don't intend to make it again. So focus is a big deal. I had a sort of a little bit here on sales and marketing, but I think Larry did such a good job of that, I'm just going to actually leave that to him. I think for us, one of the things that's important is really how we kind of sell the company. And we do have sales guys, but all those guys really do is they queue us up. I mean, they go through this process of figuring out if this is a good match and queuing us up. And if you put our experts in there, Lee and Neil and Donnie and some of our other folks in front of them. At one point, we up until last year had a 100% close rate. Last year we lost you guys ever heard of a company called IDEO? I'm sure you have a big outfit out in California that does all the thinking and doesn't do a lot of, doesn't build anything, but they're really smart folks. And so we had a deal with Verizon between us and IDEO, and IDEO actually won that. And I thought it was about time that somebody else, we finally lose, we kind of learn our way around that, but we're really proud to lose to those guys. But I think kind of how we do things is we really get our experts in front of folks, and I think for you guys, the founders of the company are the experts, obviously, and you got all this work to do back at home base. You got to get the product out and all that sort of thing. But if you're going to sell something, especially when you're small, you want to get the experts in front of people as much as you can, because those are the folks that can do the selling. So even though we have salespeople, as soon as they qualify somebody, they bring either me in or Lee or Donnie or Neil or some or many other folks in that can actually talk specifically about kind of what we do. So that's a little bit different than some folks, I think. But I think another thing that's kind of important to us is our company culture. So we're not big on development plans. We hate performance reviews. We don't do methodologies. I worked on you may remember this, but there was this big, thick document at another company that we worked at that nobody ever followed. And what we decided to do here was we let our teams inside of, we are sort of an agile development company driven by user experience. Our user experience practitioners, wireframes, things that you could hold and you can click through and all that sort of thing. So we decided that we would let each one of our teams inside of our clients self-organize around that basic tenet, the agile kind of thing, but not have some sort of big written down thing. So not big on that, not big on awards. A little story, when I was at NASA, we had an award. Well, the first thing is, if you worked at NASA, and I had a great time there, by the way. We did a lot of cool stuff. I flew many missions on the Comet and threw up all over myself and all that cool stuff. I got some video back. I actually went to a retirement party with a friend of mine the other day, and I found this old dusty thing of VCR tapes, and it was a bunch of our CRG flights. So I brought that back just last week, and my daughter wanted to show it to somebody, and my hair was dark, and I didn't have glasses. It was weird. 20 years ago. But at NASA, so you only had, at one point they had like 5 levels of how they rated people, but then there was always an argument about, people would be upset about how they got rated, so they decided to go with meets expectations or does not meet expectations. The problem, so every year you got rated on that. So if you got do not meet, which nobody ever got, then you had to go through this process. But if you were like a manager and you put do not meet, it was just a bunch of work for you. You had to try to get the guy up to speed. So everybody got meet. So that was good. I always did too. I always got meet expectations. I was one of the stars there. And then also that every branch there got a performance award. So most people just got the standard kind of thing, but there was like 2 exceptional performance awards. And so you're supposed to give that to 2 of the top performers in maybe a branch of 20 people. And so what they would do, at least in my branch, is they would just alternate it every year. So because you didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So you would get, it would be my year to get it, you know, and then there's 2 of them, so I guess every 5 or 6 years, you know, as you went through. So I, you know, got it, needed to go get your picture made with the director and all that sort of thing. So it was a big joke. And so we're not big on any of that kind of stuff here. I mean, the other thing is when you talk about employees and getting the right people, you know, and the Mongo, you guys did a good job of this. I'm going to remember the middle hills thing too, but you want to get these A players, and then you just don't worry about it anymore because you know that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I have this radar now after many more years than I want to admit here of doing this sort of thing where I can pick those folks out pretty well, and most of our folks can do that too. So anyway, kind of push all that stuff away, you know, cut to the chase, stay with, you know when people are doing what they're supposed to do, I think. And so there's a couple other things here that is sort of wrapping things up. We talked about picking your co-founders and investors wisely. There's a good, the investors thing is a lot of you guys are going to, you know, be looking for money, angel investors or VCs, and so we got time. I think we may have time for this horror story. So I told you I was going to talk about stuff we did wrong. So this one may be one of those, but it's really worse for our client. But they ended up picking the wrong investor. This company in Nashville that we're doing a lot of work for, and now the board's fighting and all that sort of thing, and uncovering a lot of stuff. And it really has nothing to do with the technology or the company or their business model or anything. They're going to go down in flames potentially just because they picked the wrong investor. This investor is a big home health agency. Of course, they're under indictment by whoever it is around Medicaid, whoever does Medicaid fraud stuff. But their excuse was, we only have 2 indictments. Most of these people have 30. Anybody in the whole Medicaid space, you know, is always under things. So we only have 2, so we're one of the you know, more honest ones. So you want to pick, you know, if you do pick investors, don't just go for the money. I mean, you have to be the right. I mean, we've been approached several times over the last little bit, and it's not something we're interested in now. But if we ever do, it's going to be somebody that can bring some value to what we're trying to do. You know, this sounds like a cliche, but I mean, I was actually in California recently, in Silicon Valley, at a healthcare startup conference. And I looked around at all these really, really smart people from Stanford. I actually was at Stanford for a couple of days, was doing some things. And these guys are building all these cool consumer healthcare things. I mean, that'll, you know, you've seen the little Fitbit things and all these other kind of stuff. And a lot of these cool things, but I looked at it, 90% of them, I thought, I mean, I would never use them. The exercise things maybe we'll set off to the side. Those actually do have a lot of use. There's a lot of things around, you know, iPhone app to remind people to take their blood sugar stuff or how you track your blood sugar and all that. But these are, you're going to be selling these to people, you know, 65-year-old, maybe folks, you know, in lower Alabama in a trailer park somewhere. I mean, these people don't, if you're really going to put that much time and that sort of thing into something, make sure that what you build is going to add real value. Think that through. Just because it's cool to you doesn't mean it's cool to everybody else. Make sure you're solving a real problem. I mean, for us, you know, we're not a product company per se, but for us, the problem is that a lot of these companies out there that we work with, either are extremely busy, they've got a lot of other projects going on, they want somebody they can hand something off to and make sure that it gets done, as well as they really don't 100% know what they want. Okay, we were going to build something sort of like this. Can you guys go off and figure it out for us, which we do a lot of, sort of market research kind of stuff. We're not a market research firm, but I mean in the sense that they've got their ideas around a certain product, we've got to help them figure that out. Also, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Somebody said that earlier too. I've now worked my way down to be the dumbest guy at PointClear. But there's one other one, I'm not going to call his name. I'm not quite at the bottom. But if you actually can do that, you know, always hire. Like we hired, well, for instance, about 2 years ago, I said, I'm not the best CEO in the world. And we brought on David Cardenas, who is our CEO now. He's great. He's built several companies. He does a lot of stuff I don't like to do. We're a great team. We work together really, really well. He's a brilliant guy. Brought on Dr. Rodney Hamilton, that I mentioned before, that runs our strategy practice. Brilliant guy. And I can name a whole bunch of others. But now I'm slowly going down the stupid chain to almost the bottom. And so sort of the last thing is, I think, for me, I couldn't go through the whole history, but after failure 1 and failure 2, you know, I just kept going. You know, I figured at this point, you know, I've got nothing to lose. And so after the kind of the .com failure, then joining one of the services companies here in town, I learned so much. I mean, you don't have to go right off and do your own thing. I mean, a lot of you folks, probably already working for small companies and that sort of thing. I learned so much by working for somebody else that's in the same business that I'm in now, a little bit different. Being on a management team, being on a leadership team, figuring all that stuff out. So if you can get that kind of experience, that's great. Just do your best to absorb everything that you can, and just pick yourself up and get going again, because it's going to be a rough road sometimes. But that's pretty much it for me.